Welcome to the Howie Games. A man that was an athlete. He's a man about town, but in all seriousness, I have tremendous respect for all of my guests for their athletic pursuits. But because I've understood what this man has done in the media sense, in the podcasting sense, and how hard he has worked to build a platform for himself and his mates, I'm pumped to have him on the show. His name is Buckley, and I'll say it right from the start, which I rarely say. I am a massive fan. Dill, it is great to have you on the Howie Games, the second biggest podcast in the country behind Dill and Friends.
Oh, I don't know about that. It's an absolute honour, mate. Bit of goosebumps, to be honest. Like, I'm extremely honoured to be here, and I don't say that lightly. It means the world. You know, I really, really do appreciate it. I still remember all those years ago calling you.
Yeah.
In about 2018.
Yeah, I reckon it was.
And just asking you about the world, and you took my call, and I was still am a nobody, but you were extremely generous with your time, and we've had a great relationship since, so I really appreciate it.
I actually thought it was Nathan Buckley, but then
you were like, I thought you were too keen to take the call, to be honest. In the
just
first
came up Buckley on the phone. I was like, oh, Nathan, this could be good. Hey, I don't know how you go about researching. For some guests, I have pages of notes. For you, I've got your name, your wife's name, the fact your dad won 3 flags, your years for games that you played, and the names of your podcasts, List Cloggers, Dill and Friends, and some of the other work you do, More Greens Golf. That is it. And I enjoy these podcasts where I don't feel like I need to be a slave to certain things I need to get to. So if I just saw Mick Doohan walk past in the studio, who's been on the show before. If I need to know what Grand Prix he won, and I need to know how many years he won, and there's certain things I need to know about him to show the possible respect. How do you go about getting yourself ready to speak to a guest?
That's such a good point, isn't it? Like, I had a few podcasts recently, and I'm not really good with dates and remembering things. And I've found through countless episodes and experience that you almost have to go two ways.
Yeah.
You either have to like fully commit.
Yes.
And be like, I know these things about you, or you just go like, hey man, like tell us your story, and let them do the thing. Because I found that the more I try and get real analytical and talk about what happened in 2004 and how are you feeling leading into this, Grand Prix, that's not my style. I don't really watch a lot of sport. The reason I talk to people isn't so much about the performance element. It's probably about just their life and who they are away from it.
Yep.
What makes them tick. And then inevitably that stuff comes out anyway. So I've found that for me, I stuff up the stats way too much. So I like not bringing them up.
Right. Well, I don't have many stats.
Yeah, well, you know what, mate? There's not many stats to really go through.
41 games over 7 seasons here, but don't worry about
8 seasons. You can't even get the stats right, mate. Come on.
Because you were there the first season when you didn't play.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I didn't count that because I just thought you were warming up.
Yeah. It was a warm-up.
It was a training year.
Yeah, it was a training year.
Hey, when I spoke to you about doing this, you said you're about to go on a break because you are having a baby.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, mate.
The best. You can't say the best thing in a person's life. The best thing in my life has been the kids and my relationship with my wife. How are you feeling about it? How long till you have the baby?
Oh, look, yeah. Well, firstly, it hasn't even happened yet. It's one of the coolest, most special, incredible things. I get goosebumps even thinking about it. But yeah, the baby's coming in the next sort of week and a half, 2 weeks.
Wow.
My wife's 38 weeks now, and it's been a long journey for us. We're really excited for what's ahead.
A long journey in what way?
Long journey. It probably took it. Well, it did. It took us a lot longer than we thought. I think in school you get taught that you can't even look at a girl without even doing something happening.
Absolutely.
And for us, we experienced a few troubles. And when I say a few troubles, it's a lot. Like I wasn't always comfortable talking about it, to be honest, because and I want this to sound, I was not like ashamed or anything like that, but it was one of those things that was really hard to talk about, like the battle of fertility. And we had a bit of trouble early. My wife and I, we had 2 ectopic pregnancies in a row, which is like the most uncommon thing ever. Like, so that's when it gets stuck in the fallopian tube.
Yep.
And if you hit one of those, it's like 1 in a million, and to do it twice in a row, it's pretty uncommon. And it was really scary. She had to get rushed to hospital, emergency. emergency to remove one of those tubes. And after that happened, it was a big thing for us. Like, fuck, is this ever going to happen? And it's really scary. And that was a challenging time. But we went, a couple of years with IVF, and that didn't really work. We found some other issues, but we just stayed extremely positive, and without jumping way into it so heavy, like it just the respect and the love and the connection I have with my partner now is just, it's unbreakable, man. Like, just seeing what she's put herself through for us, and the journey we've been on together in terms of to start a family. As anyone that's been through fertility issues would understand, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. That fear of the unknown, not knowing what's happening, but to be expecting a baby very soon is exciting. It's anxious. It's nerve wracking, but there's a pretty cool story that actually how it was conceived, and I won't take you through the whole details, but there's a story of how, like, leading up to it.
Right.
And as we're talking before in the questions, that player profile, that I'm a bit with the universe. Like, I believe in the universe, and I always had this underlying thing, like, it's going to work out.
A connected man.
And one day I'd had these massive calls from this guy who, to this day, is now one of, like, my very, very good friends. His name's Ali Tarai. And he kept emailing me, being like, mate, I'd love to catch up for a coffee. And you know what life gets like? I was like, mate, I don't want to catch up with coffee. I don't have time to catch up with coffee.
The coffee.
I was like, I don't want to get a coffee. Anyway.
Coffee.
Ended up getting a coffee with this bloke, and I was like, I cannot be bothered, like, getting a coffee. But we end up vibing straight away, chatting, this, that. And he owns Future Golf, which is a company. I'm doing some golf stuff. And he's like, look, I know this is a little bit weird, but I'm going to St. Andrews in 2 weeks. I have some spare accommodation. Do you want to come? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm coming. Like, all this, we're struggling at the moment. I was like, I just want to get out of here. I need to get out of Australia. I've got to say yes to these opportunities. Got to do it.
When the British Open was on?
When the British Open was on.
I think we spoke just before you were going to go. You said, I'm off to St. Andrews.
I was like, man, I'm going.
Yes.
And everyone's like, you can't get tickets this late. I was like, nah, we okay. Somehow got, like, media passes to this, like, event. And anyway, we flew over.
Interviewed Cam Smith in the press conference.
Yeah, interviewed first in the press. But this is just the weirdest thing, man. Like, I had not even been to a golf event, let alone the Open or, like, overseas to Scotland.
And at St. Andrews.
And at St. Andrews, the 150th year, like Tiger Woods, all this weird stuff. And
I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, it was weird. And it's just this, like, super weird time. And I get over there, we're just vlogging the trip, going and playing at, Kings Barnes golf course. And mind you, when I say golf, I'm off like 16. I'm not a very good golfer at all. I'm probably 30 now. But we get over there, having this whirlwind trip, and just all these things are falling into place. And there was this underlying thing. By the way, I've known Ali for about a week, and we're just connecting on all this stuff and talking a lot about the universe as we do. And it got to the end of that trip. I just met Cam Smith. He'd won, we're having this time, and I was meant to go home the next day. And I called my wife, and I was like, you need to come over here. Like, you need to come. We need to have a good break together. Like, we're going to go away at the end of the year. And I was like, we need to get here. Is there any flights available? She's like, there's not. I don't have a valid passport. We don't have, like, time. I can't get away. It's only one flight in a week. I was like, Juz, get over here. Like, if there's a flight, book it. I don't care. We need a break. We need to get away. Because it's just on this high of, like, we need to have fun with our life, Yes. We can't be brought down by all this other stuff. We need to just enjoy ourselves. This is the only time we're going to be able to go. Long story short, there was one flight left. Her passport got validated. Now, my wife is extremely intelligent, like the most intelligent person ever.
And a great cook.
And a great cook.
Find out.
And at this stage, we were doing a bit of IVF. And she realised that she was ovulating. And we thought natural pregnancy was not going to happen at all. And she was ovulating. She took this injection that delayed her ovulation, like without any doctor or anything like that.
Right.
Flew over to Greece. We met in Greece.
Straight into your waiting arms.
We went on a holiday together, let our hair down, had an incredible trip together, went to Hungary, to Budapest, visited her family's roots and all those sorts of things. Come back. She's pregnant.
Wow.
Incredible.
Not with the IVF.
Not with the IVF.
Tell me the moment you found out.
I was actually just finished playing golf. And for us, it was a weird one because it was we'd had been pregnant before, so it was a bit more of a like, oh, great, but we've got to wait. So we had to wait, and we went in and had the 6-week scan, and when we found out it was in the right place, it was okay. But then let's get to the next. So yeah, it was.
So how many scans do you felt like right? We're having a baby.
Oh, a while on, to be honest.
Yeah.
After 20,
Wow.
yeah.
And how? 2 questions, really personal questions.
Yeah.
How is it to mentally deal with it when there's something you both want and you're not able to get to that point? And as you say, it's not something. Even my generation, you're a generation younger than me. Even my generation, I remember when we started thinking, right, we're going to have kids. Speaking to however many mates that said, "Oh, it took 2 years,"
Yeah.
or we had problems along the way, and I didn't know any of that. I just thought,
Yeah.
yeah. But my generation probably doesn't speak about things as much as your generation does.
For sure.
So, like, what was it like when you were trying and not succeeding? If that's not the right
Heartbreaking.
word.
Yeah, like it was heartbreaking, and I think for me, there was I had a chat with Emma Murray, who's been an incredible support for me throughout my life, and
Renowned sports
Yeah.
psychologist. That's probably not a full summation of what.
yeah,
he does,
just incredible person. And she always tells stories like she'll tell a story about herself, but she's telling you the story, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
She's talking about a time that her daughter was going through something and she just wanted to fix it. And like the whole time I was there just trying to fix everything, like, oh, let's try and feel better and do this. And Emma made this really incredible thing. She goes, you're actually robbing someone of them growing. And that hit me really hard because I was like, this is our thing, like Juz and me, like we've got to go through this. This is just like, unfortunately, it's a card that's been dealt, but we grew through it. And I look back now and it wasn't pleasant at all. I don't look back on it fondly. But it was, we've come out of it so much closer. And I think it's not what happens, it's how you react to it. You can. That's a very easy thing because you've asked me a while ago, I wouldn't have had that.
Yep.
But yeah, I think just the love and respect. I didn't think I could love her any more than I do.
Okay. Footy. Righto. Father, son.
Yeah.
Were you growing up? You said your dad never put any pressure on you as a kid. Like, were you? Oh, we're playing against Dylan Buckley. His dad was a Carlton legend. He's going to be really good. Were you that kid? Did you see that?
Yeah, 100%.
Like I saw the other day, Tendulkar's son batting, and I thought, oh, heavens above.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Buckley wasn't Sachin Tendulkar, but Jimmy Buckley is a legend of the game.
100%. And like, this is not something that other people haven't experienced. You look at someone like Gary Ablett or like Dacos boys. It's something, it's common to people to go through. But yes, I was actually pretty good junior to be completely honest. I used to played well, played in all Vic teams, captain under 16s, captain the AIS, the Australian team. Played some really good footy and was really enjoying it at that stage because when you're young you just love what you're good at, and like loved playing footy. So yeah, there was definitely that connotation, I suppose.
So then typically on this show, athletes that come on have been really, really successful. So you've had 8 years in the AFL system. These are my notes. Well, let's start with the start. Round 3, 2013, your first ever kick in footy. A goal. I watched it this morning, called by Brian Taylor, who is the best of the best.
He's a guy I do love, Brian.
I don't think he had any idea who you were.
100%.
He had no idea who you were.
And it's funny because I know Brian now quite well,
right?
But I just don't even think he would know that.
So you came on as a sub, and I could tell when he's calling it. He kicked the goal, and I could tell because I've done this. You're looking on the page thinking, who's this skinny little bloke with the number 7 on his back?
Yeah.
So how much did it mean to you and your family to pull on the jumper that your father had worn?
It meant a lot. Yeah, it did. I'll touch on the point about the 41 games and the 8 years, and to be honest, I'm honoured to be on the show because like for me getting into this side, like I never thought I'd do this stuff because I didn't win the 3 flags. win the Brownlow, win the premiership. Those things didn't happen.
But that's why you're fascinating.
But that's why maybe I'm fascinating. And for me, as I spoke about being a really talented junior, and I'm sure there's a lot of young people and great people that listen to your show. Well, I know there is. You're the biggest show in Australia. But I think the message for me was early days just got so, I don't want to say ahead of myself, but I didn't know how to work hard, I think, like as a young kid. And not, why would I know how to work hard? You know, like I was hard on, like, I look back now thinking, you're an idiot. Like, why didn't you just do this? Like, I had no idea. Had absolutely no idea. Because I'd probably just been naturally gifted and things had just worked. And
So you hadn't had to work to that point to get where you
I
had?
wouldn't say I hadn't had to work, but I didn't have any, like, adversity.
Right.
Like, I didn't get not picked for anything.
Your
you know?
talent levels carried you through.
Carried you through. I think when I got to the club, I just thought, like, cool, it's going to happen. I'm going to get cheered off, play 300 games and, like, win a couple flags. How good is this going to be? This easy as. And just got smashed in the face. Like, that is not how it works here, mate. Like,
Right.
When I'd left, I knew, like, you have to be pretty silly not to see that coming. Okay? Like, it's, you know what's got, the delistings.
You'd played...
I think I'd played a couple games that year.
Yeah, that's
not
it.
sure.
Yeah.
So, like, and I'd signed 1 year. Like, I wasn't...
So does the coach call you in?
Yeah, so what happened was, obviously no contract on the table. You're going into the end of your review meeting. And even sitting there, I go through my weights coach and my nutrition plan. And my meeting was at the end of the day. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, I don't need this weights plan, you idiot. Like, we both know I'm not going to be here next year. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. But for me, this was probably at the stage where, like, I went from that immature thinking to it's not what happens, it's how you react to it.
Yeah.
And walked up into the exit review
With
Brendan Bolton, John Barker, Neil Craig, Stephen Silvani.
pretty imposing.
Yeah, it was a
room.
lot. There's probably like
Pretty
6 guys in
imposing
there.
room. Neil,
And Neil Craig, they're all scary guys. And when you're not playing, your relationship's never, like, it's never going to be incredible. Like, I wanted to play. They weren't playing me. They're fair enough too. I didn't deserve to play. And they just said, look, we're not offering you another contract. But what they said was, they're like, we aren't going to delist you because, like, of the relationship we have. We want to actually try and put you into another trade to give you another deal. And they were going to try and, just add me in as, like, steak knives somewhere else. And which was nice, like, appreciated it. But at that time, I'd seen a lot of guys come and go and leave those reviews sour and, sort of go, F you guys didn't give me the chance. And that wasn't how I felt. I wanted to live on good terms. I had a family at the club, love the Blues still to this day, like, incredibly grateful for everything that went. And just had this realization, like, these guys are just doing their job. Like, I'd probably make the same decision if it wasn't me. And just honestly went in there, had this epiphany and was like, I genuinely cannot thank you enough for the opportunity. Like, it means the world. I've come here a boy, leaving a boy, but, with a few more bruises and a bit more wiser and learn a lot about myself. Like, I've grown up there and just thank them for the opportunity and couldn't be more lucky and just wanted to call it home. And, I just remember hugging Sauce and, like, both all crying because it was just, like, a really nice time. Not that I'd had the impact on Phil, but I was definitely a part of the club.
of course you were.
And yeah, it was a really cool moment because that period, it is really hard to leave a place. It's like, it was like a breakup, like a mutual breakup.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated it. And then, yeah, like, I've got great relationships with all those people to this day. Like, Bolts is one of my favourite people I've met in footy. The amount I've learned from him, not so much about footy, but about life, has been crazy. Like, he really helped me turn into a man, I think, with a lot of things that he taught us. But yeah, the other one was pretty funny too, like with
the Giants.
At the Giants with Leon Cameron.
So you spent 2 years there?
2 years there. 2 of the best years ever.
Even though you weren't playing?
Oh, mate, the best. Like, probably need to go into that, but that was just, like, the coolest thing ever, going to Sydney, going away from family and the bubble. And
Yep.
I don't know about you, but one thing I'll be doing with my kids is saying, you need to go move interstate and get away from me and go grow up yourself, because I'd still mum doing my washing, like, at that time, and I had to move up there and do shit for myself for once, which was cool. So yeah, learnt an immense amount and forever in debt to the Giants and the people up there. Like, what a time. Unbelievable.
You're spot on that you want your kids to explore, but now as a father, I hope my daughter lives at home till she's 55. My son can leave at 35.
Yeah,
but these feelings are still to come for you.
I know. But it was bloody incredible, that whole experience. And by that stage as well, you know, I know I spent 6 years at Carlton and 2 at the Giants, but I feel like there's a part of me that my heart is in Sydney, just for, you know, the playing group and those guys. You know, I came there delisted, had no idea what the hell was going on. Started a podcast up there and they just embraced. Like, I spent more time in the media department than I did on the training track, to be completely honest.
So that's the next point. At the Blues, you did discussions with Dylan.
Yeah.
I had a look at a couple of those. That
Yeah.
was your early foray.
Yeah, great.
And then, so your first ever podcast was Josh Kelly, the
Yep.
smooth mover.
Yeah.
So at what stage, like, I reckon the last 8 years, everybody started a podcast.
Yeah.
Everybody started a podcast. What made you think this is something I want to do? Did you just like chatting to people? Like, you're a curious cat?
Curious cat. When I left Carlton, it scared the shit out of me. I had no job. Like, I had no idea what I was going to do. Like, as I said, I didn't play many games, had no qualifications, no career path, like, to move to. Got offered to, like, a lot of local footy roles where I'd go and work as, like, a sales rep for a steel fabrication company or something like that. That was
And play.
and I was like, that's a deal with the devil, you know? Yeah, that's not good.
That
And
is a deal with the devil.
And it's just not what I wanted. I'd seen a lot of those things go wrong. You know, you're owned by a club and you've got to do this. So that was the reason where, even if I had not got the Giants contract, I wasn't going to play footy again. And that period of, like, getting to the Giants, unbelievable. As soon as that happened, I was like, need to work out what is next with my life. Like, this is an opportunity to go up there. And this is a lot different to a lot of the people you would have had. And people don't like this, maybe. But I went up there as a part-time footballer, part-time, let's work some shit out, man. Like, you know, you've only got maybe 12 months to this happens again, and let's work out what it is.
It's good.
And it's a wrong mindset to have,
It's
but it's
good awareness,
also...
though. It's good awareness.
Well, it is. It's awareness of the situation. Like, it's what reality was. And there's the fairy tale story that, you know, I make the team, play every 22 games and win a flag, but I'm happy with my story at the moment.
I bet.
Anyway, I did that and walked in, and the whole other part of it is, I suppose, when I was at Carlton, I was so... And this was a big part of my young days. As I said, why didn't you play those games? All I wanted to be was liked. Didn't give a shit about being respected. And I'd played that role so long of, like, what does Juddy think of me? I want these guys to like me and this. And I was like, when I got to the Giants, I was like, I do not care what these blokes say about me anymore. I couldn't give it an absolute shit. Blokes used to bag me about doing Dylan Friends at Dill, discussing with Dylan or whatever at Carlton. They're like, you're not even getting a game and you're doing TV. And it really played on my mind and wanted them to like me. And then I got to the Giants, I was like, I don't give a shit. I am going to start this podcast. I couldn't give a shit what Toby Green or Josh Kelly or anyone says. And as soon as I said that and made that like a thing, everyone's like, that's a great idea, man. Like, that's a great idea. And it comes back to that whole thing of, like, once you do something and you decide, people do just get out of your way. And it was huge. So that's how it all started. And yeah, I used to, you know, Ryan Miller, big shout out to him. He was like the head of one of the media guys there. I used to go and teach me how to edit and do all those things. But the reason I did it was I couldn't get into radio. Couldn't do it. No one wanted to talk, which was, what did I have to talk about on radio? I went up there to a famous radio station. I won't mention the name of, very famous. They're still going. And it was the most embarrassing day of my life. I sat there. They didn't speak to me. I was like, oh, God, this is never going to work. And then credit to Liam Flanagan and Mark Geyer up in Sydney. I reached out to them through Lee Merrick, who was a guy that worked at the club.
Were they doing rush hour?
They were doing the rush hour with MG. And for 2 years on Tuesday night, I'd go after training and produce that radio show with them.
Right.
About league, which I knew nothing about.
So what you did, and I get quite a few people contact me and say, how do I get into sports media? And they're coming through school or whatever. And I always say, look at Dylan Buckley. Look at what he's done. He didn't play the 300 games, but he's worked his butt off and he's used social media and he's used his podcast. So you're the poster boy, I think, for non-superstar athletes to create their own role. So you couldn't get the job on the radio or the TV. So you've created your own operation. So just for people that aren't aware, like Producey, your company now.
Yeah.
what podcast are you rolling with at the moment?
Yeah, so a bit like how you claim you're the number one sports podcast in Australia, we claim we're the number one sports network in Australia
Well, you are.
independently,
It's
which
like-
we actually are. To
you
be
claim
honest, yeah.
I
And
claimed it with 10 downloads though. I probably went a bit
we've
hard.
got
bit
11,
early.
so
Right,
it's already
I
more.
went a bit hard, a bit early.
Yeah, so we're Producey is a media business. We have two parts of the business. One's a sports network, which is Dylan Friends, List Cloggers, 200 Plus, and Tradies, which is one of our new shows.
Yep.
And yeah, we like to say we are independently one of the biggest sports networks in Australia. And we also do work with a lot of businesses and companies on videos and podcasts for businesses as well. So there's two parts to the business. And that was born from Dylan Friends. Like I left somehow this whole podcast. Look, there's a lot of fortuitous timing about this podcast game, as you know. It wasn't I'm not sitting on it thinking I had the magic carpet. Like I didn't think it was going to be anything. I was using it as a showcase to show radio, hey, I can do this.
But you must have worked your bum off.
We did, but everyone, everyone does.
No, they don't.
Well, a lot of people do. And it was,
So when did Dylan Friends, how many episodes in did it get to the point where you're like, hang on, I can expand this. This can be something that I
not
can
for like
actually
3
do.
years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyone listening that wants to start a podcast,
Yeah, it takes a while.
3 years.
Yeah.
So how many years in would you have made your first dollar from the
3 years.
podcast? 3 years.
Yeah.
So you've done 3 years of community service.
Yeah.
And had people telling you, oh, I love this episode, but I hated this episode. Why'd you get this guy on? And you're like, well, I'm just sort of putting it out there for free.
100%. So we did it. Yeah, I did it for 3 years and had a lot of help along the way from various people. And I'll talk about the team in a minute that I've got because I think my biggest talent in the world is actually just surrounding myself with the right people. That's like my number one strength. I just attract the good ones. I don't know how. But when I left footy, I went and worked at 3AW for 9 months. So I was working for them, doing like producing on radio for like Dee Dunleavy and Tom Elliott. And
Did you want to be on air at that point?
I did, but and that was still the dream, because podcasting still wasn't a thing. And then I just didn't get put on any shifts anymore. Looked at the roster and it wasn't
Never a good sign.
It was sort of been sacked by Carlton, sacked by the Giants, and then just left off the roster at 3, which to be honest was like the best thing ever.
So you weren't sacked. They just didn't have.
I wasn't sacked.
You didn't have
There was
the
a
list exit meeting. Right?
Yeah, there was a miscommunication there. I think. I
No
don't know.
exit meeting.
They thought I was having a week off, turned into like 4 years off now. So I'm still on the books there, I think, but I just haven't really been shifted on since. And yeah, that was when it got to the stage where once I sort of got not put on any shifts on it, I was like, shit, maybe I have to just go and do this now full time. The biggest thing I can say to people now is the people that want to do stuff for free always get the best options. It's like I did so much. I worked at Triple M for 2 years for free. I worked experience because when money gets involved, you're expected to do something. When there's no money, you can do whatever. You don't have to be good.
Anything you
just
do,
there.
it's a positive.
You're there. You're
Whereas
just there.
if you're getting paid, there's an expectation.
There's an expectation,
isn't
and it
Yep.
becomes then there's the guarantee that you should know what you're doing. So I never knew what I was doing, still don't. But I worked so much for free that it really helped that transition. And anyway, Sam came on and started producing the show with me, and to be honest, it just snowballed. Then my business partner Adam Baldwin, who was actually my mentor, he was a mentor of mine, and then we birthed Producey. And now we have 4 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees. And we do 4 podcast shows that are sports shows that you can find anywhere. And we also work with other businesses on branded content and stuff as well. So it's been a wild ride, that's for sure. It's super weird.
What is it about Dylan Friends that has made it so successful?
I'm not going to lie, easier when you get in the game early. Like that really helped, you know. Basically just copied Howie Games, just with a better looking host.
Yeah, better looking host. And a younger demographic.
But I think the beauty of it, and I used to take this as like, and I tried to improve it, but the beauty of it is like no one's pretending to be anyone. I do not have the answers to anything, nor do the guests. And let's just talk about it on the way through. It's not, and I apologize if there's been any telling of, like, my biggest thing is I don't want to tell people what to do. I just want to share experiences and then people can make their mind up from there.
But your cut through, I don't know. I would have, you and I have had this discussion before. I reckon between us, we've got the demographic.
Mm.
But you're probably a 15 to 28 man. I don't know.
Yep.
And I'm probably a 28 plus man.
70.
Yeah. You're probably right. Probably right. As I get older, but the younger. I think what I'm trying to say is, I hope that my podcast gives a lot of lessons, and we do have a lot of kids listen. But you've got a core demographic of young people, and you're helping set them on a path of positivity and success through what you're doing. And I guess my question is, do you understand the positive effect you're having on the young community? Because it's something quite wonderful that you are doing through being a relatable, funny, regular dude who speaks to people that are quite inspiring. That's what I see the success of your podcast is.
Oh, that's very kind. I think for me personally, I see myself as just a part of the community, and I'm just the one that's lucky enough to ask the questions and sit in the interviews.
Yeah, which is a huge privilege.
It's a huge privilege, and I'm just the one. Yeah, as I said, I'm lucky enough to be, because the questions I'm asking, they're not for someone else. They're just for me, and they're for the people that are similar to me.
Yes.
You know, that's just curious about life, you know, trials, tribulations, wins, losses, all those bits and pieces. Like, that's what we're curious about. And I look, I am so thankful and like forever grateful for every single person that you listen to one show, all of them, because they have changed my life.
You love them.
Like, I love them to death.
Like when you say you love the audience, you actually do love the audience.
Genuinely love them. Yeah.
And
like,
when people come up to you in the airport or in a cafe and say, mate, I listened to your episode with such and such, I love your podcast.
It means the world. Like, I'd never, ever get over that. Like, when someone comes and recites something and they go, oh, I remember this episode and you said this and I learned this. And I was like, oh, I didn't even pick that up.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what the audience might not understand. I need to be more honest with is, like, they're actually the producers. They format the show. They, you know, we're all growing together. And I think that's like even the evolution of it is like, you listen to the first episode and the people that were with me, and as I've grown, as they've grown, I've grown, we've grown together, and we're doing different stuff now as well. And it's all relevant for where we're at. And it's sort of like a bit of a journey.
And you talked about performance pressure as an athlete. You're now, how old are you, mate?
30.
So you're 30. You're about to have your first child.
Yeah.
You've got how many full-time employees, you say? Four? Four.
Yeah.
So there is financial pressure
Yeah.
on you to perform and to continue. And people have come and worked with you at the start for nothing. So they've put their lot in with you. You've got a family to support. Does the pressure of what you need to do, do you wake up at night and think, heavens above, I've got to pay this bill, or what's my next idea? Because you're a man that's brain pretty constantly ticks.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what I said before. Like, I surround myself. I'd question if anyone has a better team than I do.
Okay.
That we're a part of. I've got a business partner in Adam Baldwin who we just, you know, the love and respect I have for him is immense. We have such different skill sets that just complement each other. Another part of our business, who's a co-founder, Zach Kangalaris, who is a guy that I met and just attracted him, manifested him to come into the business. Like, just numbers, knows things and has visions and all these bits. I've Sam, Darcy, and Scott and another Sam as our producers, who just these most creative beasts. And I think where I'm getting with this is, I had to learn to just let people play their roles and just let them do their things, and not. I'm definitely not a micromanager. I know that I just need to trust them to do their shit. Let me do mine, and let's just all communicate together. But yeah, look, is there stress? Sort of, but I think I just back it in and can't worry about it too much, because the one thing that gets me really is a weird way of looking at things, and it's probably not the best thing to say, but if it did all fail, look at all the failures I've had. Like, they've all worked out okay. You know, it's all. It's got me to the next thing. So, like, whatever. I don't know. It's very scary. It's very hard to say. But if it did, it's not what happens. It's how you react to it.